Hello, my name is Bill. I'm a horror author, and I thought this would be a really fun idea to do today. I just want to say as well, if you can hear a fan, I'm so sorry. There is a heat wave in the UK at the moment, and I live in the loft, so I'm just constantly hot all the time, and also not in a good mood. I'm fine. I love you guys though. But today is going to be a really fun video. I thought, what if I find my favourite book published from every year I've been alive on this earth. I'm going to find my favourite book that was published in 2000, in 2001, and so on and so on. Originally, I was going to do a video where I talk about books that I'd read in like a certain time of my life, my favourite from oh my gosh, how do I explain this? Originally, I was going to do a video where I would do my favourite book I read in 2013, but then I was like, I didn't read any books when I was like one. So that destroyed that idea. But doing it this way as well, we've got a bit of hindsight because some of the books I read and loved when I was like a really young teenager, I guess, probably won't be favourites today, but there's definitely some that are, so it'll be fun to talk about that. So before we get to it, if you don't know me, I'm Bill Wood. I am the author of Let's Split Up, which is out in the UK, did really, really well. It's being adapted for TV, which is so exciting. It's out this September 2nd in the US, and if you pre-order it anywhere you want, you get this really cool sprayed edge edition, and then if you're in the UK, the sequel, Be Right Back, is coming out this October 9th and next spring in the US. So without further ado, we're going to start with 2000, and I want a disclaimer. There's a couple of years where there was not a standout book, so I've either just put in something silly, like you'll see in a minute, or I've just kind of skipped that year. So for 2000, I've gone with Unwriting by Stephen King. Hear me out. There was no novels that really stuck out to me for this year, but On Writing is a book, probably one of the books I've read most in my life because it's a craft book. It's Stephen King's, I guess it's a memoir. I mean, it says a memoir of the craft, but I got so much, not only inspiration for writing, because I mean, Stephen King is one of, if not the most successful authors of all time, but the tips, the tricks in this book are just like outstanding, and it is the one craft book that I think I only still have one like physical copy of a craft book, and that's this one. If you've never read it, if you want to be an author, if you're an aspiring author, writer, blah blah blah, and you've not read this, what are you doing? It's really good. For 2001, this is one that I didn't know what to put. Nothing really stood out, so that's where we're at for this one. For 2002, I feel like this was the only option for me. Eragon by Christopher Paolini was like a staple for me growing up. It was kind of my entryway into fantasy. If you don't count Narnia, which I definitely do, but this was like, I guess, getting me into the young adult genre, and it was probably the first young adult book actually, no, that's a lie. I did read Twilight way too young, but Eragon, I guess, was my first high fantasy YA. If you, Eragon was just like a culmination of all of like the fantasy tropes that the set at that time, and it was just a joy. I love it so much. The film, not so much. I'm really hopeful for the new adaptation they're doing, but we'll see if that ever comes to fruition. The game that they made for the movie, if you've never played that game, it was so fun. Again, I've not played it since I was like 6, so it could be awful, but it was fun at the time. If you've never read Eragon, it is basically like the epitome of YA fantasy. All of the tropes at the time were kind of culminated into this one book, so I feel like some people may say it feels like very derivative or surface level, but for me at the time it was just it was everything I wanted, and it's just such a gateway into the genre. For 2003, I think one of the best middle grade books ever, which is Inkheart by Cornelia. I'm not going to say the surname because I've said it before in a TikTok and someone flamed me for mispronouncing it. But Inkheart is just magical. I think it is probably my favourite middle grade book. I don't think I've got another middle grade book on this list. I'm looking through. No, I don't think I do. This one is just like a warm hug. The movie I actually watched before the book, and I don't recommend it because the movie's very fun, don't get me wrong, but it is not the book. The book just goes, it just has so much more whimsy, magicalness, making up words, to it. I mean, it's just like that classic, like, what if the stories came to life, and it's brilliant. I need to read the new one. Apparently it's amazing, so I'm definitely going to do that. But that's 2003. I'm going to be a little bit quick going through these because we've got like 25 to go through. On a complete... this is going to be so weird. On a complete other end of the scale, 2004, we have The Sluts by Dennis Cooper. Now, when I originally read this book, I didn't like it because it's a very extreme book. It's probably, I think, the only like clearly like extremely disturbing, I guess it's horror book. Is it horror? It's debatable, but it's definitely on like the disturbing side of the book world, and I've never read anything like it, and I don't think I ever will again. I don't think it's my sort of thing, but I have so much respect for it. I've got like such a weird fascination with it. I don't know why. I read it so fast. It's sort of a mixed media situation. It's about an escort, and I forget his name, but it's all told through the forums and these chats of people talking about him and like falsifying stories. You realize that some of these people are just doing it for the attention, that they've seen these things that they've done, or they've slept with this guy. But then this other guy comes into the picture who is seemingly very, very truthful about his experiences with this guy, and that's when it gets really disturbing. Good read, but also like it kind of just like made me question everything afterwards. Yeah, not for the faint heart at all. For 2005, this was kind of one I just put here because I've not read it for a very, very long time, but I remember really enjoying it at the time, which is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I read this probably when I was 13, 14, and it was very, very impactful on me at the time. If you don't know, this is actually a book from the perspective of death in Nazi Germany. It's Nazi Germany, isn't it? I don't remember a whole lot about this, but I just remember being very, very... I don't know. I think because we talked about it in class as well, I just have like a lot of memories attached to it, and it was just so impactful. Similarly though, for 2006, I couldn't actually pick one for this one. Nothing was really standing out to me. But for 2007, I picked one that has been kind of like the backbone of my teenage years, which was City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. Is it the best book ever made? No. But was it like detrimental to me being a reader, loving reading, getting into writing myself? Yes. I think The Mortal Instruments and its spin-offs, they do only just get better. The first one is very, very plain and simple, but you'll see I've got an actual spin-off on this list as well. I think Cassandra Clare is really just good at making these characters that you absolutely love. I actually prefer most of the side characters over our main characters in this one, which I feel like is kind of rare considering you're not seeing their POV as much or at all. If you don't know what The Mortal Instruments is about, it is basically a girl called Clary. Claire. It sounds weird not saying it in an American accent. Clary. You say it in a British accent, Clary. It doesn't sound right. She basically finds out that she is a shadow hunter, which is pretty much like people just who like fight demons. She was hidden from it for her whole life, and then her mum gets kidnapped and she gets thrust into this world of the mythical and the magical and all the supernatural stuff. The romance is questionable. I'm sure you've heard about that, but I wouldn't be probably here in this situation as a writer without these books. Similarly for 2008, another one that just kind of shaped me as an author and kind of as a person is The Hunger Games. Everyone knows what this book is, so I don't really need to talk about it. Suzanne Collins is honestly probably my favourite author. I think she is so good at what she does. She knew what she wanted to do with this story and she did it expertly. The prequels are just as good. I think Sunrise on the Reaping, I read it earlier this year and I was just blown away by how I just love that sentiment where she said she'd only write more Hunger Games books if she had something to say, and I mean the world is in shambles right now, so she has a lot to say and I think she's doing a really good job at that. I think this concept could have easily come off very on the surface, but there is so much societal commentary in these books, and some of the books there's more times out of the games than in, and that's almost more enjoyable because you're really getting a feel for this world and how just horrible it is. For 2009, this is kind of a random pick because I have not read it since I was a teenager, but this is Fire by Kristen Kishore. This is not really a sequel. It's, they say they're a companion to Graceling, which I loved as well. You know what? I couldn't tell you a thing about this book. I just remember loving it, and it was the only thing that stood out. So it's a bit of a cheat, but this was a great book. Do I remember what it's about? No. Moving on. 2010, I've kind of cheated here. So Days at the Murasaki Bookshop originally came out in its own language in 2010. It didn't get published here until like 2022, 23, but I loved it. It is a very, very cozy book. It is basically a woman who finds out that her boyfriend is marrying another woman, and she's kind of just like at a loss, as you would be, like, what? So she moves in, I believe it's with her uncle who has a bookshop, and she decides to work there, and her life completely changes. It's a very introspective book. It's not normally something I like. I get quite bored by the cozy. I don't know. I love a plot. I do love a bit of introspection, but I have to be really in with those characters, and the character work in this book is incredible. Very inspiring to me as a writer. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. It's lovely, just like with a cup of tea, sitting outside at the night. Great, I love it. For 2011, I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I easily could have put, is it The Starless Sea, her other book? I love that one too, but I decided on The Night Circus. This is another one that I've not read for a very long time, but it is one that I went in not really knowing much, and I know a lot of people do say this is a little bit slow, but that's what I like about it. The world building in this is kind of unmatched. It just feels so whimsy and just, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like Laini Taylor's writing, where it's just very, very out of this worldy. Does that make sense? I don't know. Laini Taylor is also amazing. I should have put one of her books on here now that I'm realizing that. I don't know which one. Strange the Dreamer should have been on here, but alas, here we are. For 2012 is another one that I kind of struggled to choose one. I decided on Every Day by David Levithan. Now, I'm not just saying this because David Levithan is now my publisher, which is wild to say. This is another book I've not read for a very long time, but I just remember being really sad reading it and loving it. There is a film adaptation which I've never watched. Have you watched it? Should I watch it? For 2013, this was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare, which is the final book in the Infernal Devices trilogy, which is a prequel to the Mortal Instruments. This happens in the 1800s, and we kind of have sort of a trio situation. Will, Jem, and Tessa. This book is just heartbreaking. Everyone knows, does everyone know the epilogue in this book rips your heart out, stitches it up again, you want to cry. It's incredible. It is some of the best work, honestly, I've ever read. It is amazing. If you ever want to read any of these Mortal Instruments books, just go straight to the Infernal Devices. I say that to a lot of people because people struggle getting into the Mortal Instruments. The Infernal Devices is just up here, and because it's a prequel, you can read it first. 2014, I've got a bit of a curveball here as well. Horror Store by Grady Hendrix is probably not actually my favourite Grady Hendrix books, but it's so experimental and it was just so fun to read. If you don't know, this is actually like a book that's like this shape. I don't know where my copy is. It is somewhere, otherwise I would show you. But it is basically a book that looks like an IKEA like manual, what they're called, catalogue, and the story is told in like a fictional IKEA, and it's ghosty and it's really fun. I say the cast of characters take a little bit of getting used to. They're definitely some not eccentric, some of them are just a bit annoying. But it's just a very fun, inventive book, and it's just a joy to read, especially if it's like a dark and stormy night. Why did I say that? I don't know. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. There's some better Grady Hendrix books, but this one's really fun. 2015, I decided on Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. What a good book. This is just, I think, one of the best YA books in terms of character. Every single character you love. Our main cast, the 6 of them, they all have their own POVs, which just does this story just so well. They're all kind of misfits, I guess, and they're doing a heist, and it's really fun. It's very atmospheric. We've got romance in there. We've got some amazing representation too. This is kind of the standard for any sort of fantasy heist situation. Whenever I see there's a new heist book announced, they always comp this. Well, not so much comp it like officially, because you kind of have to pick something a bit more recent, but unofficially everyone's always referencing Six of Crows because it is the standard. And Crooked Kingdom, the sequel, I'm not over that ending. Oh my gosh. 2016, I decided on Kerry Maniscalco's Stalking Jack the Ripper. I love this book. I think it helps that I've kind of got a fascination with the Jack the Ripper case. I think it's more so of the ambiguity of we still don't really know who it is, even though people claim to every other year. I think it's just really interesting how she's kind of shaped her version of what could happen. Is very, very outlandish and obviously not the truth or based on any fact, but she has a lot of fun with it. We follow our main character, who is working as, not, what are they called? Not a morgue. The people who work in the morgue, what are they called? You know what I mean. But she's a woman. It's the 1800s, so she gets kind of like a lot of backlash because of that. But her uncle, I believe, is the main guy there, so that's how she gets in. But basically, she is having the victims of Jack the Ripper come in, and she decides to try and solve the case for herself. There's a romance in here, which is just amazing. I feel like it's everyone's favourite part of it. So if you do like a bit of like historical romance with some mystery involved, it is great. I want more of that. If you know any more books like this, please tell me. I've read the whole story. I've read the whole series, so I don't need to read them. The thing is with the series, I think the first and second are incredible. I think the third and fourth kind of lost me a little bit, but I think it's just because kind of like they're not the same sort of, what's the word? They're not the same sort of atmosphere. The first two are very dark and gloomy. I mean, this one's set obviously 1800s London with stalking Jack the Ripper, but then the sequel is like Transylvania, or no, Romania even, with vampires. It's really fun, and the third and fourth don't have the same vibe to me. Anyway, we talked too much about this one. 2017, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I first read this when I first joined BookTok, and I was just enamored with this book. Another one, I'm realizing there's quite a few books with kind of like a mixed media. I like that more than I realized. If you've not heard about this book, I don't know where you've been. This book is truly incredible. I sobbed my eyes out. I read it in a single day. I remember being on holiday on like a huge beanbag, just there crying while all my family are like, what the hell? But I've since made pretty much every member in my family who read this book, and they're just exactly the same. It is truly that good. We basically follow this woman called Evelyn Hugo, who was a huge starlet in like the 50s, very much inspired by Marilyn Monroe and female actresses of that time. And we basically see her at first when she's in her late 80s, I believe, and she's kind of been out of the spotlight since like the 60s. And she decides to do like a tell-all interview because I think she realised that she's going to die soon. So she's like, wants to get stuff off her chest. She picks a reporter, and it's pretty much told as her telling the story. And then we go back to see all of her 7 husbands. But this book is also sapphic. That's all I'm going to say. It is amazing. It will make you sob. It's so good. Great little mini twist at the end too. Ugh. I need to reread this. 2018, I've actually picked The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, which I didn't realise is kind of a controversial opinion. Some people don't like this. It is, I know now, after looking it up, quite contested as actually being horror. I definitely think it is. I feel like some people don't like this because it is very character dialogue heavy, and I think because that's just how it would be in that situation. It's realistic. It's basically about a couple who are with their daughter in a cabin in the middle of the woods when some strangers knock on their door and say that the world's ending and they have to do something. And I don't really want to spoil it because with it being so like plotless, you don't need to know more than you need to know, right? This book is one of those ones where you just are questioning yourself the entire time because you put yourself in the situation. What would I do in this situation? And I love when a book does that. I love when a book makes you stressed. It's actually the only Paul Tremblay that I have read, so I definitely want to read. I think Horror Movies, his newest, which I do want to read. For 2019 is a book that took me so long to read because of its length, which is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is an super epic fantasy with dragons, although dragons aren't like hugely featured. I mean, I guess they are, but they're like, I don't want to spoil anything. It's great. It's multi-POV. It's also sapphic as well, but it is just so rewarding. I think with a book that is so long, it's really easy to get kind of dragged down by the length of it, and obviously I was scared to go into it reading it because it is so long, but it kind of just flew by. The audiobook is amazing as well if you are more in tune. What am I saying? I am falling asleep. Very good. Highly recommend it. audiobook if you need it. 2020 is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which I think is probably the best YA book released in the past however long. It is a masterclass about how to write YA. It is kind of a dark academia-ish mixed with like an urban fantasy and modern day King Arthur, Arthurian legends. It is so clever. I am yet to read the newest one still, which is killing me, but I need to reread 1 and 2. Number 2, just as good. If it is, honestly, I cannot tell you how good these books are. It is 100% in my top 3 books of all time. I love it so much. For 2021, I picked A Dower of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Now, this date may be contested. The original self-published story came out in 2021, which is the version I read, but there was like a traditionally released version in 22 or 23. I can't remember which. But this book is amazing. It is very, very short. It's really, really unique in the sense that it's basically a letter from one of Dracula's brides after his death, and you find out pretty much the abuse that she faced from him. It is sad. It's quite hard. There's some really tough topics discussed in this, but it's also just a beautiful book. The writing is gorgeous. I read this, like, I remember just in one afternoon. I'd love to read the traditionally published one to see like how much has changed, because I'm not sure actually. For 2022, I picked R.F. Kuang's Babel, or Babel, wherever you're from. This book, again, is another one that I've seen quite a lot of discourse about, because I think people read this and just say it's very, very pretentious, which it is, but I feel like that's the point. It is all about language. That's the whole thing. It's all about linguistics, language. I mean, it's literally set at Oxford, guys. But this book really struck me. I never received an early copy of this, which I was dying for. But my friend did, and he managed to send it over for me, and I read it in like a couple days and sent it back. This book, oh, it really struck me. For something that is so literary and so pretentious, as people say, I could not put it down. I loved the footnotes in it. I know that's a controversial opinion too, but I just loved, because it really added to the whole ordeal of it being about language and how we were, I don't know, it's really hard to explain, because I guess at its core you would class this as dark academia, but is not just dark academia. I feel like that would be doing it a disservice. For 2023, I picked one that I just had a lot of fun with, which was The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This book was just fun. I read this, I believe, earlier last year, flew through it. It is basically about Amina El-Sarafi, who is a retired pirate. She's been retired for quite a bit now, but then she gets an offer from someone that she cannot refuse. Offer to go and find, I'm trying to remember of things now, to go find someone that she believes is somewhere. She's like, okay, this money could change my life. It could set me and my daughter up for forever, the rest of our lives. So she gets her pirate ship crew back together for one last hurrah to do the job, and it is just fun. The dynamics in this are great. I love seeing the dynamics of her and her old friends coming back together, because obviously some of them are skeptical, and it's just really interesting. I've never really read anything like it, and it's nice having a fantasy protagonist who isn't like 22, you know. Amina, I believe, is she in her 50s? I can't remember exactly. But what's also great about this, in the last third, this kind of just shifts into a different book. It is a huge fantasy spectacle, and it's just really fun to read. So for me, it's like very much summer read. So if you're looking for something to read right now, this is that. 24, I picked Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, which was my first Chuck Tingle, but it's not going to be my last. I'm looking to read Camp Damascus on holiday next month. Bury Your Gaze was literally just made for me. If you don't know me, I am an author, but I studied film and screenwriting at university, and I just have such a love for horror films. If you've ever seen my YouTube videos, you'll know how much I love horror films. I mean, my book Let's Split Up is literally a commentary on horror films. My sequel's called Be Right Back, guys, come on. But Bury Your Gaze is amazing. It's about a screenwriter who pretty much refuses to bury his gaze in his TV show, I believe it was. And it's basically the horror characters in his scripts are coming to life. It is just so meta. It's really fun. And again, had a blast reading it. So is it like a literary masterpiece? No, but it's fun as hell. And if you have any interest in screenwriting, if you like, even just like horror movies, you're gonna adore this. And then we get to 2025, which I have picked a tentative book, but obviously that could change. I've not read as much as I want this year because I've been writing so much. I've written 2 books already this year. I'm writing a 3rd next month. But so far, my favourite book of the year is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, which is strange, I know, because there's not been, I don't think, a single non-fiction, I guess, on writing was. But this book really took me by surprise. I have not read a John Green book since probably no, it was Turtles All the Way Down. I did an assignment on that. But this one I enjoyed very, very much. I listened mostly on audio on when I was like walking and stuff, and it was just so interesting. It is basically what it says on the tin. It is a history of tuberculosis. He basically went to the hospitals. I can't remember which country he went to now, my bad. But it is all about the class balance and the class divide, and how poorer countries still are dealing with tuberculosis on huge scales because medicine is so expensive, but how things have kind of shifted in the past couple of years where people are able to get their medicine. It's an incredible read. It's so eye-opening, and it's definitely made me want to look more into this and give non-fiction more of a chance too. So those were my favorite books from every year. Since how am I going to title this? I don't know how to say this. But do you agree with any of these? Do we share any favorites? Let me know in the comments, or let me know your list. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to buy my books, please do. And I hope you've had an amazing day. What am I saying? Please subscribe. Okay, peace. Bye.